I'm Nate, and I'm presenting our world building project pitch, which is me, Brad, and Eli's world building project, The Outlet. And this is going to be a movie, and you are HBO Max executives listening to our story. Okay. So it starts in the city of Halloween, which is our northern city, which you can see here. It is a agricultural-based environment. It's a sprawling city, which has a central kingdom, which and a central tree, which gives life to the kingdom and allows crops and trees and produce, goods like that to flourish, which makes them a valuable trading asset. And then there's the southern city of Grimholt, which is near on a cliffside. It's on the coast, near the water, and they don't get the same amount, not nearly the same amount of vegetation as Halloween does, and they're and so they're based more on their oceanic goods, the goods they get from the sea. The city of Grimholt has 3 rings. The outer ring is the peasants and the trading area that goes on in the city. The inner wall, the second wall, is like the middle class workers, and then the inner is the royal family and the elite. Okay, and then there's the woods that separate these two cities. The woods is a mysterious place. People don't understand the magic that goes on in the woods. You'll see later there's a fog that causes people to see visions and get lost in their own thoughts, and causes them to get lost in the woods for good. So a lot of people disappear in the woods. And there's one main trail in the woods that leads between these two cities that is safe. Okay, and this is my sketch of a map. As you see, Halloween in the north, Grimholt in the south. They're on the seaside. They're not getting the vegetation up here. The tree is allowing these farms and to flourish. Okay. Okay, this is our protagonist, Leif Norwood. He's the son of Asmund Norwood, who is the military leader of Halloween. He's determined to prove himself to his father and to himself. He is weak, he's insecure, he's cowardly, and he really just wants to prove himself and be used to the kingdom because his dad is such a hero to the kingdom. He feels like he's outshined. As it says, he lacks physical and mental strength, and this is partially due to him losing his mother early on. So it's mainly his dad who's pushing him to try and be something that he feels like he can't be, but he's working towards that goal. This is his dad, Asmund Norwood, as I've talked about. He's the Lord Oakshield's right-hand man, which is the leader and the royal family in Halloween, and he commands the armed forces, and he's training his son and the Lord's son, who is much more talented than Leif. Okay, this is Leif's friend, Edric Oakshield, the son of the Lord, who's very talented, heir to the throne, son of Wyman Oakshield, the Lord of Halloween. I know this is getting confusing with all the names. But he's talented. He's very nice to Leif, but Leif since he's insecure and weak, he can't help but feel jealousy towards Edric. Okay, and then there's Wyman, who's the Lord. He's a benevolent leader who promotes freedom and prosperity in the kingdom. He's trying to get Edric prepared to become the leader, and he's a caring ruler. And then on the opposite side, this is Casimir Agravain, Lord of Grimholt. He follows a god that's kind of unclear what god he follows, but he feels like he's the chosen one, the one who's going to bring Grimholt to greatness and expand past the coastline into the mainland, which you can't see on the map, but it extends more out this way, the world. So this is not the whole land, as you can see. Okay, and then a part of his religion is sacrifice, which you'll see that comes into play in the story. Okay, so it starts off in the exposition starts off with Grimholt being previously known as Brindewatch. This is when Brindewatch and Halloween were peacefully trading. Brindewatch being able to get the food from Halloween to support their kingdom, and Brindewatch sending the goods from the sea back to Halloween. But then there was a long winter, and people couldn't pass through the woods, so trading became dysfunctional, and Brindewatch really suffered because they didn't have enough food to stay afloat, which forced them to attack Halloween to try and take over. They all flooded into Halloween to try and take over and abuse the trees, the prosperity from the tree. Halloween was able to force them back to Brindewatch, and this left tensions between the cities, and this is when they stopped trading. Okay, and Act 1 starts with Lord Casimir Agravain taking over Brindewatch and turning it into Grimholt. Halloween prepares for war because they know Casimir Agravain is a power-hungry ruler. Prince Edric is taken by spies from Grimholt who invade Halloween and take him back to Grimholt, and which causes Lord Oakshield to panic and cause a rescue team formed by led by Asmund. And Asmund sets out with the most elite military commanders and people in their army to try and get Prince Edric back. And this leaves Leif behind. Leif, who's incapable of helping them out on the mission, feels a sense to want to prove himself on this mission by helping his friend and saving his friend, but he can't help but feel that feeling that he's going to be useless and only hold the team back. So he has conflict on whether to try and sneak onto the team or stay behind. So Act 2, turns out Leif sneaks into the cargo and is discovered while they're in the woods by his father. But his father, who's infuriated by this, has no choice but to keep Leif on the mission because they've already traveled so far, it would be pointless to turn around. And as they're in the woods, they make it they stray off the path to try and get to the Grimholt faster, but they get lost in the fog. And only a majority of the team makes it out of the fog, but they lose a few of their good men in the fog. And as they get out of the fog, they're on the edge of Grimholt. And then they set up camp, they spend the night, and the next day they sneak into the inner circle, eventually finding Edric in the dungeon. But their invasion was... Lord Agravain set up a trap for them, and as they arrived in the dungeon, he was there, surrounded by a lot of his cultists around him, and they jump the team, and Asmund is captured by Lord Agravain, and Leif uses that opportunity to run out, despite and leaving his father behind, because he tells Leif to go on and find a way to save the prince another way. And that's where Act 3 begins, but I'm not supposed to spoil the story. Okay, so takeaways from this project. There's a lot of brainstorming, communicating, and compromising between our group. I think we did a really great job of this. It can be difficult because People have different visions of what they want the story to be. But talking it out and compromising ultimately led us to the best story we could have created, which is really like satisfying and rewarding. Also, fleshing out details, that was super hard. So that's a takeaway for me. Like, it's easy to think of a general idea for a story, but when it gets down to like the specific details in the plot, that's when it gets hard. And ultimately, it was fun to work with Eli and Brad on this project and create a story that we could be proud of. Okay, and then I know there's no audience here because I'm making this up, but some questions that I heard in the video was, why would the Lord in the South wage war against the North if they had a beneficial relationship? And we get to that in the exposition, the long winter and how they were forced to because they had no food, and that's where the tension started. And then, why was Brine Watch on the coast in the first place? Well, they were able to live there because of the trading between the two cities. So it wasn't much of a problem then. And they had their economy based on the sea. So it wasn't as bad before there were tensions. And then what we're inspired by, I heard them mention that in the video, but I was inspired by Game of Thrones. And that's like why we decided on HBO executives. I think it could fit a similar style and be potentially really cool. So I think that's all. All right, thanks for listening.